Did Latasha reach out and apologize to you after she threatened to commit suicide?
No.
Did you ever have a conversation with her about that?
No.
Throughout all of those videos, it's very convincing talking about those things. Would you agree?
I would agree.
And none of it was true.
No.
I want to talk to you about your relationship with Brodes, okay? Y'all were married for about 5 years. How long did you date before you got married?
About a year.
You were a second wife.
Correct.
And at no point during your relationship, with you at least, did he discuss this Watchers or non-monogamy?
No.
Brodes was a pastor.
Correct.
In Little Rock, that was at St. Mark's. So
Yes.
that's a big church.
Yes.
Did he take trips with the church?
Yes.
Often?
When you say trips, like international trips or?
Both, international and local. Israel,
Yeah,
Savannah, El
often.
Dorado. Did he take those with the other pastors?
Sometimes.
And he also took them sometimes with other church members. Like the church groups.
I can recall one time, maybe a time or two, where there was like a training conference or something like that. Yeah.
They did the whole church group was for Israel, right?
Correct.
Okay. And when he got the job at Mississippi Boulevard, that's a big deal to be a pastor there, right?
I guess.
It's a big church here.
It's a big church.
And now on direct, I thought you had said that he didn't ever do counseling for
St. Mark?
at St. Mark's, but I thought you told the police that he sometimes did. You just didn't know that he counseled Latasha.
I had never known him to do counseling.
Okay. Did he ever tell you that he counseled Latasha?
No.
But you knew that she ended up getting divorced.
I did know that.
Now I want to talk to you about Latasha, okay?
Okay.
You knew her from church,
Right.
and that was St. Mark's in Little Rock.
Correct.
She was a life group leader.
Yes.
What's a life group leader?
It's a person that leads a group of people that get together and do Bible study.
And that was a group that Brodes was over, right?
Correct.
And before his relationship with Latasha started, this was a tight-knit group, right?
Yes.
He was very involved with that group.
Yes.
And it was about 7 or 8 people.
In that group, there were probably 6 or 7 groups. Yeah.
But in that particular, the group that Latasha was in,
Yeah.
a couple of people. And those groups were selected from the whole church membership, right?
Based on who showed interest. It wasn't like, we want you, people came and showed interest. Yeah.
There's thousands of church members at St. Mark's.
Sure.
And I think, about 40 or 50 people were selected to be life group leaders?
I guess. I don't know for sure.
And that's okay if you don't know. And you and Latasha were fairly friendly.
Yeah.
You played tennis once a month for a couple
Once a
months?
week. Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, after Brodes got the job at Mississippi Boulevard, y'all moved from Little Rock to Memphis.
Correct.
And at no point were you aware of their relationship.
No.
Were you aware of any issues that Brodes had at St. Mark's?
No.
Y'all moved in October,
Correct.
and that was to Carnival.
Correct.
Before y'all left, you gave your friends, church members, your new address.
Yes.
And there was a party that was thrown for y'all, right?
I think so, yeah.
Did you know that Latasha organized that party?
It wouldn't surprise me to know that.
After you left Little Rock, and moved to Memphis. You didn't see Latosha again until April 4th, right? And as far as you knew, neither did Brodes.
Correct.
But Brodes would come back to Memphis for his braces.
Right.
Why would he come back to Little Rock from Memphis to get his braces done?
Because the braces were paid for, but the work wasn't done in his mouth. So it just made sense to continue seeing that orthodontist.
And so Brodes would go to Little Rock, but you would stay in Memphis. Now I want to talk to you specifically about April the 4th, okay? Now you were at home that night.
Right.
You were watching TV.
Right.
Just you and your dog, Anakin.
Yes.
And around 9 or 9:30, you heard a noise, a faint knock.
Correct.
Ignored it.
Yeah.
And then a couple of seconds, minutes later, you heard another slightly louder knock.
Yeah.
And you and Anakin, the dog, got up to go see what was going on.
Correct.
A third knock, or after you said, you know, I'm not going to open this door if I don't see who it is,
Yeah.
you saw Latosha through the people,
Yes.
recognized it was her,
Yes.
invited her in.
Yes.
She wasn't threatening you.
No.
She did not have her gun out pointed at you.
No.
You sat, or you brought her into the house, right? And y'all sat in the living room.
Right.
Talked. Right?
Yes.
Talked about tennis.
Yes.
Talked about a work conference. Right?
Yes.
And just chatted.
Yeah.
She seemed happy to be there.
Yeah.
She seemed happy to be talking to you.
Yeah.
At no point while y'all were sitting alone in the apartment was she threatening to you.
Yeah.
She never tried to harm you.
No.
And she was seated, if I'm not mistaken, on a couch, right?
Right.
Actually. You're in a man approach, Whitney.
Yes.
Tabatha, do you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
That's my apartment, Collierville.
Your Honor, I'd ask that that be made the next numbered exhibit.
Any objection?
It's the living room.
Any objection from the state?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. All right, we'll show the photo of the living room as exhibit 2.
And the Broke My Heart murder trial is about to get started up live. We're seeing some movement in the courtroom. We'll continue playing the on-aired footage for you until that jury is in the box. This is quite a case taking place in Tennessee. Plus, we're getting ready for the civil trial to resume over the teacher shot by her 6-year-old student. We expect the attorneys to go before the judge any minute for some last-minute arguments before the closings taking place this morning. Be right back.
Here you are, responsible for the lifelong torment of an entire family. Is that evil in your mind now? So now you've taken her mother's life, and you heroically step in to console her.
I knew it was wrong, but yeah, I still did it.
Did you murder her mother to try and drive her back into your arms? Oh my God.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. Busy morning here. We've got the closing argument set to happen soon in the civil case of the teacher shot by her 6-year-old student. Abby Werner is the plaintiff, and she's suing Dr. Ebony Parker, the school's assistant principal. In Idaho, we've got Brian Koberger's restitution hearing set to happen at noon. We expect the victims' families to be in the courtroom. And in Tennessee, we have got testimony resuming in the murder trial for Latoshia Daniels. This is the Broke My Heart murder trial, where she's accused of shooting and killing a pastor that she was having an affair with. But it gets complicated. He was married. Apparently, she thought it was an open relationship. It was not. And we've been playing for you unaired footage from the pastor's wife on Cross. Let's go back in.
If I may publish this to the jury?
Yes.
Tabatha, is this a picture of the living room at your apartment?
Yes.
Where were you seated speaking to Latasha?
I would have been seated on the left end of the sofa.
So, I've got one. I think it won't work on the screen. It's gotta be good. So, like here?
Yes.
Okay. And where was Latasha?
On the opposite end.
About here?
Right.
Next to these other chairs.
Yes.
Brodes was not home yet, right?
Right.
He had gone to Pastor Pointer's to run an errand.
No, when he got
I'm sorry, Pastor Turner.
Right. Well, he got off work. He went to the cigar bar. And then from the cigar bar, he told me he had to go drop something off at Jason's house. So he went and dropped something off, and then he came home.
He likes cigars.
Yes.
At Thursday nights, he'd go to the cigar bar, right?
More than Thursday nights, but yeah.
But that was one of his nights,
Okay.
right? So you texted him when Latasha was there. Didn't tell him that she was there, but
Right.
texted him and just said, this is strange.
Yeah.
And you said that it seemed a little odd, but she was happy to be there, happy to be talking to you.
Yes.
Up to this point on April the 4th of 2019, Brodes had never told you that he ventured outside of your marriage, had he?
No.
And you had never sanctioned that.
No.
He never told you that he had been involved in a 2-year relationship with Latasha.
No.
He never told you that y'all would be sister wives.
No.
He never told you that he promised Latasha that he would tell you.
No.
Did he tell you that he saw Latasha earlier that night before she came to your apartment?
He did not.
Did he tell you after he got there that he had seen Latasha earlier that night at the cigar lounge?
No.
He acted like he had no idea she was even in town when he walked in that door, right?
Correct.
And if he had seen her at that cigar lounge earlier that night, that would not have been true. Right?
Correct.
I want to talk to you about while you and Latasha were talking, okay? She never threatened you, right?
No.
Was never cross with you.
No.
And she engaged with you cordially.
Yes.
Seemed genuinely happy to be there.
Yes.
Now I want to talk to you about when Brodes arrived home, okay? Can you describe his demeanor when he walked in?
Agitated.
Did he immediately come in and offer the bourbon?
No, not immediately.
Okay. When did that happen?
I would say once he kind of settled in, he had bags, he had things with him, so he set those down, told me that he had brought me these aminos. He made the statement about this was an uninvited guest. And then I think that's when he started saying, what are you doing here? Where are you staying? That whole bit. And at some point around there is when he offered, does anybody want a drink?
After he made the drinks, he also sat down, right?
Yes.
And when we're looking at Exhibit 2, Brodes sat in this chair.
I can't remember which chair he sat in, to be honest.
That's okay.
One of those chairs.
And while he was seated in one of these chairs, Latasha was still seated here.
Yes.
Were you still seated over here?
Yes.
Brodes made himself a drink,
Yes.
and he made Latasha a drink, right? And you didn't want a drink.
Right.
You had had some champagne earlier in the night, and you were done.
Fine. Yes.
When Brodes was talking to Latasha about why she was here, what she was doing. He was kind of making small talk with her, right?
It was, I guess you could call it that. It was like badgering almost. Yeah.
He still seemed agitated.
Yeah.
At some point, did you notice that he kind of stopped talking to Latoshia when we started engaging with you?
I didn't.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Your Honor, I have a transcript of her statement. I previously provided a copy to the state, but I have a bound copy. I'll provide the ease of reference. Could you look at page 8 for me? Lines 8 through 17.
Okay.
And just read those for me and let me know.
What line is 18? I'm sorry. It's not numbered.
May I approach? Yes, it should be. It's just hard to see. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. It's page 9. Starting here.
Okay.
And then just down a couple lines.
Okay, so it says,
Oh, you don't have to read it. Just read it to yourself.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
okay.
Do you remember telling the police that he kind of stopped talking to her and started engaging only with you?
I don't, but if it's here,
You don't dispute that that's...
I know I won't dispute it.
Okay. You could just put that in.
Okay.
Thank you. Was that normal behavior for him for the guest?
I would say that it was normal for behavior for him with his life group leaders. It was not unusual for him to talk kind of rough to them and just, I would often say, I don't know why y'all put up with him. But it was usually just, that's just him, kind of a good fun kind of way of roughhousing, so to speak. So I always found it kind of cringy, but it was not unusual.
Okay. I want to talk to you now about when Latoshia said that she was going to go ahead and go.
Okay.
She basically said, I'm not going to keep you guys, right? And everybody stood up. And you led the way to the door.
Right.
Latoshia was behind you.
Correct.
And Brodes was behind her.
Yes.
And you got all the way outside, right?
Yes.
I mean, to the stairs of the apartment complex.
Right.
And Latoshia and Brodes were still back towards the apartment.
Correct.
Latoshia right outside the door, Brodes in the door.
Right.
Did you hear her ask him to walk her to her car?
No.
When they were over there and you were at the stairs, they were kind of had their own thing going on over there while you were trying to walk on out, right?
I don't know because my back was turned. So,
Right.
it wasn't until I turned around that I realized they weren't right, behind me.
And you were telling her, just don't speed, be careful. If you've had something to drink,
Right.
right? You had no idea what was going on behind you.
No.
So then I want to talk to you about when you turned around and saw Latoshia, okay? She was still at the door of your apartment.
Well, she was out from the door, yeah.
And that's, your door is right next to your neighbor's door, right?
No, it's across the hall.
Okay, thank you. So she is standing right outside the door. Brodes is standing in the door frame.
Mm-hmm.
So she was closer to Brodes than you were.
Yes.
Do you remember how far away you were?
So from our front door to the stairs might be from here to the beginning of this green partition. So we're not very far from the stairs. Yeah. So if this is the front door, those are the stairs.
Okay, so
So
you
if
and
I'm
I-
there, Brodes is here, she's maybe here. So it's like, equal space between all three of us. It's not a lot of space.
12 feet?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not good at guessing it either.
All right, let's step out of the courtroom for just a moment and do some analysis as we get ready for the jury to come in soon. I have on the program legal analyst guest attorney Matt Mangino. Matt, good morning to you. Tell us, please, what you're thinking of this case.
Well, it's certainly a strange case. The circumstances under which this happened. I mean, you have a guest, whether it's an unwanted guest or not, it's someone that you're familiar with. You have a conversation, you have a drink, and she's walking out the door and she pulls a gun and begins shooting the pastor. I mean, it's in that sense, it's bizarre. The circumstances, though, as you, I think, alluded to earlier, that there may be some sort of heat of passion defense. At first blush, you would think, hey, this isn't one. She drove 3 hours. She had a gun. She shot her lover. But under these circumstances, did she anticipate that there was something else? She met with him earlier, the sister wives thing. She knows all about the open marriage. Did she just think she was coming there to have some conversation with her new, very close friends? And then all of a sudden he gets aggressive and turns on her and starts grilling her. And so it's really a unique kind of heat of passion defense.
Yeah, it is. It's disturbing. I mean, this whole situation is so disturbing, as you know, Matt. The widow, fortunately, was not killed. I mean, she could have been. This could have been even more serious than it was, with the pastor being killed. The defense contention here is that the wife wasn't the target, that the pastor was, and the wife just, kind of jumped on him to protect him, and unfortunately was hit by the gunfire, but thankfully is alive today. Do you think the jury is going to believe that she wasn't a target and that only the pastor was the target?
Well, that's an interesting question, Julie. But I think, number one, I think the defendant apologized and said she didn't mean to shoot her. The wife, who we're listening to her testimony, got between the defendant and the pastor, and so she was in the direct line of fire. Obviously this is about the defendant and Pastor Perry. That's what this is about. She would not have been there but for that. And the question is, was he a target, or was this something that she formulated in her mind at an instant when she was walking out because she felt as though she had been, provocated by his grilling and sort of rudeness to her while she was in the house?
Exactly, Matt. Yeah, there's evidence, according to the defense, that she planned to take her own life that day, even penned a suicide note, just purchased the gun and the ammunition that day to take her own life and stop the pain that she was in because of him. The defense isn't backing down from their allegations that he was incredibly deceptive, letting her think that she was his love and that this was an open marriage, when in fact it was not. So it seems like two women were badly deceived based on the evidence. We're going to hit a break. Matt Mangino, stand by kindly, please. We'll get back to the broke my heart murder trial in just a moment. Look at the courtroom in Virginia. His Honor is on the bench and going over some last-minute concerns from the attorneys as they get ready to bring in the jury at 11 for the closings.
We were quite taken aback. We didn't expect to see so young a suspect.
Abby's hand is never going to be a normal hand. It's not going to be like her other side, but we've got it pretty darn close.
Do you see that same light, that same color in Abby that you used to see?
No.
We've got the closing arguments expected to happen in about a half an hour from now in that case in Virginia, the shooting of a school teacher by a first grade student and the teacher suing the assistant vice principal. There is His Honor presumably going over the all-important instructions with the attorneys. That's usually what's done right before the closings take place. So we will keep an eye on that courtroom, let you know when the jury's in the box. In the meantime, we have a brand new trial in Tennessee. We're calling it the Broke My Heart murder trial because apparently that is what the defendant said to the victim, that he broke her heart right before she shot and killed him. So apparently the defendant was in a relationship with this pastor that she thought was an open, consenting relationship. She knew that he was married, but he abided by something he calls ethical non-monogamy. Well, it turns out he broke up with her, and his wife never knew about that affair. And so it seems that the defense team is going for a heat of passion defense here. In their opening statement, they're not denying that this event happened, but they're denying that it's a first-degree murder, that it's something lesser in terms of culpability. So really fascinating stuff as we're seeing the victim's wife. She's also a victim. She survived, thank God, this shooting, and she's being cross-examined. Let's watch.
10 to 12 feet, maybe 10 to 15 feet. Does that look like a good guess to you?
This looks good to me.
She don't know. She can't answer. She said she can't.
I can move on. Latasha was facing Brodes.
Yeah, I would say yeah.
And you saw her reach into her pocket, right?
Yes.
And this was as y'all were walking up to her car.
This is still upstairs.
Right,
Yeah.
but that was the direction that...
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you saw her reach into her pocket, you saw her pull out a gun.
Yes.
Now, prior to that moment, had you ever seen a gun?
No.
Prior to that moment, had she seemed to be a threat to you?
No.
Prior to that moment, did you think you were in harm's way being with her?
No.
She started firing again.
Yes.
Towards Brodes.
Correct.
You were in the opposite direction, right?
I was behind them. Yes.
And you ran to your apartment or your neighbor's apartment.
Right.
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 So you weren't even in the apartment when the shots started.
No, I was still outside the apartment.
When y'all were in the apartment, the three of you, was the door closed?
After the shots were fired?
Before.
Oh, before. Yeah, the door was closed before.
Could anyone see into your apartment?
No.
With the door closed?
No.
It was private?
Right.
No one else other than the three of you was in the apartment?
Correct.
After the door gets open, you go outside, you're visible to everyone else in the apartment complex. Well, they could see where y'all were, right? You became visible outside of your apartment.
Not really, no.
So if your neighbor had opened the door...
If my neighbor across the hall had opened the door, sure.
They could see Latasha standing.
Mm-hmm.
They could see Brodes standing in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened until after that was already out in more public area than y'all had been before, right?
Right.
You, at some point, lunged for Brodes, right?
Yes.
And tried to shield him?
Well, this was after the shooting had occurred, yeah. Once we were back in the apartment by then.
Prior to that point, prior to you trying to shield him, she had not fired any shots at you, right?
No.
And when you got shot, did you realize it?
Yes.
Did you grab your shoulder?
Yeah, the bullet moved me. The shot threw me. Yeah.
And you were right against Brodes at that point too, right?
Until I got shot, right.
And then you said, Tasha, you shot me.
Mm-hmm.
What did she say back to you?
Something to the effect of, I didn't mean to.
And then you told her basically, like, go, leave.
Yeah, just get out of here.
Just get out of here. I won't tell them it was you. Just go.
Correct.
She didn't move.
No.
And at some point, you could hear the sirens coming.
Yes.
And Latosha still never moved.
Right.
She never put down the gun.
No.
And when the police came up, they had their guns drawn.
Correct.
And she still didn't put down the gun.
Correct.
And in fact, she pointed the gun at her own self.
Yes.
Towards her mouth.
Yes.
Towards her head.
Yes.
Against her chest.
Yes.
And the police were trying to talk to her to get her to put the gun down.
Right.
And she wasn't even really interacting with them.
She was talking back, you know. Like,
Was she
no.
crying at that point?
Probably. I don't remember.
Do you remember her saying, "What have I done?"
No.
May I approach her? Yes. If you could just read right here.